Let's go, man.
All right.
I'm over here. My hands are like super cold right now just due to of how nervous I am.
Yo, what's up guys? How's it going? This is Kazi from cleverprogrammer.com. Today I have with me
David, what's up?
Yo, let's go David.
Let's go.
Today we're going to be doing something really interesting, which is we're going to take David, who has some coding skills. David, how would you describe yourself in your skill level?
We're advanced beginner.
Right, so he's one step below intermediate, mostly beginner, and we're gonna take David and work with him and give him some coding skills. We'll see how it goes, all right? And hopefully you'll enjoy this with us. Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll.
We'll just go through this together, okay? Let's go through some JavaScript exercises, and I wanna see how you do in them, okay? So let's start with, in JavaScript, let's start with if you had to write something to figure out the max of an array. Would you be able to do that?
The max.
And if you don't know any of this, it's totally okay. Okay, I'll work with you here. I guess just start off by making an array in JavaScript, okay? And see if you could show it here where it says JS start. If you could just have like one of the items show up here on the header, okay? So I'll give you a hint. On line 6, we have this. That's showing up here. So just start off by making an array in JavaScript, and let's just put groceries in there.
Did I just take this over?
Yes, take it over. You got it.
You said groceries?
Yes.
Oranges.
Beautiful.
Bananas.
Cool. So we got our array.
Right.
Okay, that's really good. Now I want you to okay, let's just do like I want you to print out bananas or console it out. Like, so I want to see that. How would you do that?
And you said bananas.
Groceries. Yeah, and then get me bananas out of that.
2.
Okay, and let's take a look at the log.
And there we go, bananas.
Beautiful. Okay, that looks really, really good. Okay.
It does?
Good job with that. Amazing. Okay, awesome. Now make bananas pop up over here.
Groceries dot get element by ID, and then I would say.
So let me give you a hint. Okay.
Okay.
What you're trying to do? Somebody's already done that for you on line 5 and line 6.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I would just have
so
to. So
somebody literally got that element by its ID, and then they changed its thing. So
I would just do the same thing in reverse.
So what you want to do is you already have access to this app div. You just have to do app div.innerHTML and make its inner HTML whatever you want.
Got you.
Okay. There you go.
So I would say app.
And for everybody watching, guys, this is why it's really important for you before you go to React or anything else, get your JavaScript right. So let's keep going. Okay, so try bananas. So great, it's showing up. However, what I want you to do, so you know, whether you wrote it like this or you wrote it like this, it'll still say bananas here. But what I actually want you to do is you hard coded this, but I want you to pull it out of this
Groceries.
array.
Okay. Nope, don't know how to do that.
You did it on line 10.
Oh, okay. It's the same thing? Wow.
Yes, sir.
2.
Exactly.
Wow.
Nice work. Okay. Why this is important to know is because when you go into interviews, this is exactly what happens.
I see.
Like you guys saw this, and everybody who's watching this saw this too. It's like you knew how to do this. You clearly just did it, right?
Right.
But then because I asked you, you probably just got stumped, or your brain sometimes
My
freezes.
brain literally started thinking, wow, I know how to do it, but why am I going so slow? Why am I feel like I can't do it? Why do I? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So that's why this is important for us to drill.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So you're doing great so far. This is looking good. Okay. We have our banana showing up. We're showing it from the array. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and loop through the groceries array and just like print everything out in the console. I say print a lot because I'm from the Python world, and there you don't say console log, you print.
Right.
Okay. So I want you to just put everything on the console, like just loop through it, and line by line, show me all 3 of these items. You're doing great, by the way.
Need a hint.
Let's take a look at this, right? So let name equals, okay, cool.
I know that it has to have parentheses.
So let's start here, okay? So for loops, start with, have you ever written a loop in JavaScript or not really?
Yeah, practicing that now.
Okay, cool.
So let for dot length,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, semicolon, and then it would be I plus plus.
Cool.
And then it will have these curly brackets right there.
Yep.
Console.log. And I think that's it.
So did you do what I asked you to do?
Loop through. Okay, you asked me to loop through all the items in the array until what?
And just make sure that each of them prints out line by line.
Prints out line by line.
But what's happening here instead?
So it's just going to loop through.
What is it currently doing?
It's just going to give all the arrays over and over and over.
Yep. It's just giving that array 3 times.
Right.
When you do groceries, it gives you the array again and again.
Right.
Right? But if you were to do it by yourself, okay, so show me how you would manually do it. So go through, forget about this loop, and I want you to write out lines where it literally prints out apples,
bananas.
and then another console log that prints out oranges, and then bananas. Okay. So just do that manually without a loop.
Without a loop.
Yeah.
Just groceries. Array. Oops, sorry. With the bracket 0. And then I would
You're gonna now
copy that.
Nice.
Coders, we don't need to type all over again.
Exactly.
We can copy and paste.
And let's go Command C. Are you a Windows guy?
No, I'm a Mac guy.
Okay. So let's make sure we do. Yeah. Perfect. Command C, Command V. Okay. Perfect. Good job. You got it. Right. Now you're trying to automate this through this loop. So what's the pattern that you see here?
0, 1, and 2.
Right. So what's the thing that is there in every, do you see that this bracket thing is there in every single thing you,
Right.
So groceries thing is there in every single line you wrote, right?
Right.
So that's why in the loop, you're going to say groceries. What else is there in every single line?
The location of the array.
Yep. So the bracket is there and the location of the array is there, right? So pretty much we can pretty much make the bracket here safely. Okay. And then what's this thing that gives you 0, 1, and 2? What would
That's
that?
the location.
That's the location, right? So what do you have access to a variable or something that can give you 0 on the first loop, 1 on the second loop, and 2 on the third loop? Because if you hard coded 0 here, what would happen?
It would print out the first item in the array, which is apples.
How many times?
Maybe 1 or 2 times.
Why would it be 2 times?
Because it has I plus plus.
It will, yes, but it's running as many times as the length of the array.
Oh,
so what's the
okay.
length of the array?
The length of the array is 2, 3.
3.
Okay.
Okay. So it will print it out
3 times.
3 times. Okay. So let's type in a 0 here. And I got 3 apples.
Got you.
Okay. What if I put a 1 here?
It will do the same thing, but for oranges.
And if I put 2 here?
Bananas.
But we don't want to hard code a 0, a 1, or a 2. Out of all, so I'll even give you this. It's just on this one line. There's this the variable that you created that on this first iteration is 0, on its second it's 1, and on third it's 2. Do you know what that variable is in here? Okay, so let's go through process of elimination, okay?
Okay.
Is groceries itself a 0, 1, or a 2?
Hold on, guys. I gotta tell you guys,
I know.
I'm like super nervous right now. My brain is like froze up. I'm not even thinking right now.
I know. How's he doing, by the way, guys?
Super terrible.
He's doing great. Groceries, just by itself, is what? What is groceries?
Groceries is the array.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, so groceries is an array. So groceries is not the number 0 or 1 or 2.
Right.
So it can't be groceries. Okay, and therefore it can't be length.
Right.
Okay, so what's another variable?
Okay, then it will have to be I.
Yes, so try that. Okay. And what did you get?
Apples, oranges, bananas. Wow, man.
Nice.
Wow. It's so like, all right, I just got to take a pause, man. First of all, guys, disclaimer, I wasn't ready. No, I'm kidding. I'm learning a lot. Let's go.
You know, this is why these basics are so important to practice, right? Because you can conceptually understand them.
Right.
But if you don't do them on a regular basis, it's so easy to forget what that is. And what happens is when you don't have the building, like if I want to teach you a more complex concept, right? If you haven't drilled this enough time, it's going to be very difficult for you to understand a complex concept.
Understood. That makes sense.
Okay. So like if I'm trying to teach you how functional programming works and you can turn this whole thing into one line of code using something called map. Do you know what when we say this is the 0th place, first place, second place, do you know the term for that? It starts with an I. It's called index.
Index. Okay,
so
yeah.
0th index,
of one.
first index,
Gotcha.
right?
Right.
So really, I here is your index.
I got you.
Okay, so you created this variable and you said let I equal 0.
Mm-hmm.
So in the first loop, I is 0, which, yeah, in this case is going to be apples. But I itself is just a number.
Right.
It's literally 0. Well, in the second loop, what is I? So first loop, I is 0.
Mm-hmm.
In the next loop, I is
groceries.
I is the number 1.
The number 1. Okay.
In the third loop, I is
the number 2.
the number 2. Okay. So that's really what's happening here.
I see.
So the first time the loop goes, it goes 0. It prints out apples.
Right.
Then I becomes
1.
1.
Prints out oranges. Then it becomes.
Yep. And then it becomes bananas after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My thought process right now is like so junked up, man. It's like I know this stuff, but right now I'm like, oh, where's everything? It's just gone right now.
Yeah.
I'm staring at the screen and everything's gone.
I know. You're like, what is, like, it almost feels like you never even coded before.
It feels like I've never even done it, and I've seen it plenty of times, but right now I'm just like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What did you ask me to do?
That's what happens during interviews.
Oh, yeah?
That's the problem. That happens with interviews all the time. People freeze. It's almost like they kind of forget everything. So the more times you can put yourself through in a situation like this, the better.
Yeah, like my mind literally, you like create an array. I was like, what's an array?
Yeah, exactly. Are you aware? Okay, so let's create a function
Okay.
that adds 2 numbers and just returns them. That's it.
Okay.
So I should be able to give it like number 1 and number 2 for that function, and then it just sums them up and returns it.
Let's say 1 plus 2,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess I would say console dot log add.
Okay, so let's start off with the basics, okay? So here's the thing, okay? You have skills in a specific domain, okay? So when we spoke earlier, you do Shopify and you do stuff on e-commerce,
Right.
right? And so there you have more skills. But the type of thing you're doing is you're taking existing code, right? And then you're making changes to it and you're
Right.
making things work.
Right.
It's very different than coding from scratch.
Exactly.
Okay. So we're going to have to develop these skills from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for example, the first thing that I want it to come to your mind, whenever you hear the word function, you should start off by writing.
Oh, wait, hold on. Function. Oh, man, see, this is what I'm talking about. My mind is just like, okay, right.
Off on a break.
Hold on, yeah. Bro, function.
There we go.
Function. Man, hold on. I don't even.
So when we're calling this, right, you had the right hunch to add a parentheses here because functions they take in arguments.
Right.
Okay. So your add function needs to have how many arguments that it takes?
I think it can take 2.
In this case, we're going to give it 2.
Right.
A function can take as many arguments as you want to give it. You could literally give it 1,000 arguments. But here, in this case, we're just going to give it 2.
Right.
Okay. You don't want to, here, you don't want to hard code anything.
Okay.
Because, okay, let's just say you did say 2 plus 2. And let's just say somehow it worked.
Right.
Your function, whenever I call it, would just return 4. But what if I wanted you to add 20 and 50 together? It would still just give me back 4 or something, okay? So we cannot hard code in here, and we need to give it 2 arguments, and those 2 arguments should be variables. All right, so here you could put A, comma, B.
And then you can do later A plus B.
Yes,
equals blah, blah, blah.
return.
See, now it comes back to
Yes,
me.
now it's coming back, right? However, I like to make my things verbose so
Right.
they're easier
Number
to understand. Okay, so you could do this way as well, but whichever way is fine. So do add A, comma, B.
Right, and then you can.
And then what are you going to do? So let me just say it like this.
Okay.
Hint, turn that line into code. Your code should not be more than one, like on line 24, that's it. You just get one line to write this. Okay. Meaning that it's not going to be complicated. It's not going to have multiple lines.
Right.
You don't need to set 8. Like, look, if you set a equal to 1, then if I give you your function, okay, like if I just call add 1 comma, or let's say 5 comma 2, your function will not return 7.
Right.
What your function will do, it'll take 5 and set it to what? We'll set it to 1 here.
1, yeah.
Okay. So that's what that will do. And we don't want.
So I guess in this case, I can put console.log a plus b.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. But instead of console log, I want you to
say return a plus b.
Okay. So let's do that. Okay. So now let's go down. And now I want you to console log this out, and let's add up, 7 and 10, and let's see what it gives us back. Okay, so a few things here, right? It's returning 17, so that's cool. But are you calling your function here?
No.
That you created?
No.
You're not calling your function here.
I need to console.log.
So you're giving it arguments, okay? So this is something you need to understand. Here, you can't be adding both of the numbers.
Oh, okay.
Your function takes 2 arguments.
2 arguments.
Okay. So you're doing what your function is supposed to do, but let your function do that. So you don't need to do this, but you can give it your function needs 2 inputs. So let's give it 2 inputs. So what would be the first input here?
A.
Okay. It would be in this case. So yeah, here it's the variable A. That's correct. But you need to give it the hard-coded one here, which is going to be the actual number, which is 7.
7.
Okay, so let's go 7.
7.
Comma.
10.
Yes. Okay. And now it gives you back 17. Okay. So for you, my diagnosis is this. You need to start from scratch.
Scratch.
Yes. It's going to hurt your ego.
No, not really, because I don't mind starting. I don't mind admitting when I don't know. So we're good. Learn the basics, guys.
Yes, good. So what I would prescribe to you is start from complete scratch. So here's the thing, right? Like, you understand how arrays work. You get the concept of indexing. You conceptually understand how looping works. There's a lot of conceptual things that you understand. To me, what's very clear is you're lacking a lot of practice. You're not lacking necessarily, like, for example, when I show you this, you're like, oh yeah, I get it, right? But there's a difference between you getting it and you being able to do it. One is you're nervous. I understand that. But beyond that, what's important is that you conceptually get this, but you have to do in like a really high number of practice. And that's where I would recommend to not look at online coding projects or building huge projects. That's just to get your guys' fucking attention. That won't make you a better coder. That's just the truth. Like, we make those fancy projects because we know everybody's going to be like, wow, that's mind-blowing.
Wait, is this live?
It's not live.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Because that's kind of what has me, like, shaking up. I'm like, froze. I'm thinking 1,000 people are watching me. What do I do, man?
Nah, you're not live.
Okay. You're not live. Let's go. I'm over here holding my breath. Okay.
Like, so let's practice. Okay, let's go and do another exercise.
Okay.
And let's literally do this exact one. Okay.
Cool.
So if I give you, make a function that doesn't even reverse anything, that I'll call it, like, let's just call it a spitter. Okay. So make a function called spitter because it just spits out what you give it. And just return the string that I gave you. Okay. So you could take in let's just say it takes in a string as an input. Okay. And and your function should just return that. So I want you to go ahead and write that function. And we'll walk through that too, how to break down any problem that I give you to in a second. Okay. So now what I want you to do is to prove that it works. I want you to call your function.
Okay.
And I want you to console log its result. And I want you to give it the phrase, let's just say we give it David. Let's just say we give it the word or name David.
So you said console log it.
And give it the argument David.
Give it the argument David.
Yes. Let's go over even more basic.
Okay.
Okay, because what I'm realizing is I want you to learn how to call a function first. Because I right now, when I say call a function, I want you to know what that essentially means.
Okay.
Okay. So if I created a function and I called it Kazi, okay, and it has it's not taking in anything. Okay. And it just prints out Kazi. Okay.
Right.
In order for me to call this function, how would I call this function?
Just put Kazi at the bottom there.
Okay. When I put Kazi at the bottom here, let's see what happens. I get nothing in the console log. So what should I do? So if it's not showing in the console, what's happening is I'm not actually calling that function. A function is not a variable. Okay. If Kazi was a variable, like if I had something like let Kazi equals Kazi, and I save this. All right, let's go. Identifier Kazi has already been declared, so I'm declaring it here. Okay, let's just go Kazi with 2 eyes. I could call the Kazi with 2 eyes, and I would just console log its result in order to show it. But that would say Kazi. But if I call that function that I wrote, this one here, that doesn't call it.
Right.
So in order to call the function, you have to put this open close parentheses. So whenever you're calling a function, always remember to put these parentheses. You cannot call a function without them. You have to put the parentheses. Now, if your function is dependent on a thing inside of it, then you have to give it that argument. Okay, so for example, like if I could give it any name and it gives me back that name. Right. So if I let's say had this go, take any name. Well, what would be the argument I give it? It takes in a name, right? And then what does it do? It returns the name.
Right.
And then when I'm calling it, I just go give it a name David. It goes here. The function gets called. It changes this to David. It goes to line 38, runs this line. And you get Kazi. Then it goes to line 39 and it returns David.
Right.
Okay. When I say that this function here takes in an argument, this is what that means. The function takes in something called name, and I'm just giving it that name here.
Right.
Okay. So first of all, the few things that you were doing wrong with your spitter is that you were, I think you did console log it, so that was good.
Okay.
Then you did say spitter, but you're not even calling your function here.
Right.
Okay. So you have to call the function here and give it an argument. Okay. So go ahead. Let's see how you would do that.
I have my function. I have the spitter. I have this, which is the equivalent of that right there.
Yeah.
So then I could do.
You don't have to change your function.
Right.
You just have to, just on line 36, how do you call spitter? There you go. And did it return it?
Right here?
Yeah. Did it return it?
Yeah, it did because it's above the function that you wrote.
Exactly. So it did return it. So it's good. So, but the important thing for you to see here was that functions, you call them. So you put these parentheses. And then if they have an argument, you must give it those arguments.
Right.
If you call it without this, it's gonna not work. Yeah, it's gonna return undefined. So you have to give it the argument. Does it matter what you call this variable here?
No.
No, as long as you also call it the same thing here. Right? So it's like spitter takes in a thing and returns a thing. That's all.
And that thing can be anything.
Exactly. Okay. What if I was like, hey, spitter takes in a thing and then just like adds by to it?
You said a spitter takes in a thing and adds by to it?
Yep. So it's like I would just do return by. So now it's like Kazi by. Right. And then
Right.
Those things are there to make it easier for you to kind of speak to yourself in coding. I can give you the technical phrasing as well. And sometimes what you can do is you can turn it into something that's simple for you to understand. Takes in a thing. In technical terms, it means your function has an argument.
Right.
Okay. And it takes in one argument and then returns a thing. It takes that argument and returns that argument.
Right.
Cool. So now we wrote a function that literally just returns whatever you give it. It's not super helpful, but it can do it does something. Why this was helpful right now just for you is because it taught you, or it at least reminded you of how to call a function.
See, I feel like, I don't know if other people can relate, but I feel like up here, I understand everything that's going on.
Yes.
Because I've studied it. I know what it is. But then when I sit down to do it, I can get it, 50% of the time, yay, 50% of the time, nay.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%. It does. You can keep understanding and getting it, right? And that's the thing. Like I watch a lot of chess.
Okay.
So I watch Magnus Carlsen play chess all the time. And he's the #1 best player in the world. And when I watch him play, he plays so incredibly. Every move is on point. It's perfection. It's extremely well calculated. And he makes it seem easy, like it's water. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Then I go to play a chess game and I'm like, I'm going to play just as well as Magnus Carlsen. And then all of a sudden, I'm hanging pieces. Weird things are happening. I'm hanging a checkmate and I'm losing on the spot. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I thought I would play exactly like Carlsen.
Right.
And so the only difference between him and I is that he probably has like 10 or 20 years worth of more training. Just literally repetition, skill building. And so even if you join PWJ, if you're watching the videos, it's not the same as you doing it.
Right.
And I want you to keep practicing doing it and never feel like you're better than the basics.
Oh, never. That's why, that's part of the thing that I told you earlier. I'm an empty cup. I never feel like I know anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So you want to just keep practicing, because people who put themselves above the basics, they struggle forever. So like keep practicing the basics again and again and again and again and again. And that will make you really, really dangerous.
And it's kind of crazy because, man, it's like I've seen this 1,000 times. I've seen it 1,000 times. Why can't I write a simple function?
Have you done it 1,000 times?
No.
That's the difference. Here's another thing I want you to do. So let's make a new function and we'll call it reverser.
Okay.
Okay. And what this function does is it takes in a thing and then it reverses it and then returns it.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and write that function for me, please.
So I've never reversed anything in JavaScript.
Okay. So very close. The only difference with this is it reverses that thing and then returns it.
So,
but let's see if you can reverse a string. Okay. So I'm not going to give you an array. I'm going to give you a string. So if I give you David,
okay,
could you reverse that and give me Divad? So you can look it up. You can keep looking it up because you right now looked up how to reverse an array, but I don't want you to reverse an array. Yeah. So what are you going to look for instead?
Reverse a string.
So some of this stuff, right, might be trickier than other things, but here they're giving you the solution. It has 819 votes and it's simple enough.
Right.
Okay. For example, their code is saying what? It's a function.
Right.
It's called what?
Reverse.
It takes in how many arguments? One. So it's just like ours so far. We're just calling our argument thing. And they're calling it S. Yeah. And then return. And then we're just having it return this other thing. So where they're saying S.split, ours would be
is thing.reverse.
Exactly. So you can pretty much copy paste that line.
Oh, no, I want to type it out. So thing.
Yeah. But it's not thing.reverse.join. Let's actually forget the split and join. Let's just write .reverse.
Can we write just .reverse?
I don't think that will work, but let's try it. So let's try it. Let's see, and I'll explain why if it doesn't work.
Reverse, and then it has the parentheses, and I guess that's where I would put in my name.
Don't hard code it because it'll always return.
Okay. And,
so it'll be thing.reverse. That's it. Return thing.reverse. You're done.
Oh, okay. Return thing. Okay.
Yeah. So because of how the code runs, your return line won't run first. It'll reverse the thing first and then return it. Okay. Cool. So now call that and let's see if it does what we want it to do. Cool. So it says reverse is not a function. So here's why. Okay. So let's go back here. Reverse is not a function that's made for strings. This here is a string type. Okay. Reverse function is made for an array type.
An array type.
So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
If you had an array like this, okay, and if I call .reverse on this and I console log the result of that, it reverses that thing. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
So it works on arrays, but it does not work on strings. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to take this string and turn it into an array. But exactly like this one. So a cool hack of doing that is I can take David and go dot split and go just split it by like this. Okay. And watch what happens. Okay. I'll console log the result of this.
Okay.
It literally took David
and turned into an array.
And turned it into an array. Right. This now I can actually reverse it. So I can call dot reverse on this. And now it's giving me the reverse of that. Okay. And then the hack is to take it from that array and turn it back into a string again.
Oh man, you guys are crazy. Okay. Let's see. So would that would be the dot join?
Yes, gotcha. There we go. So to write that here, dot join.
But that goes after the reverse, right? So
exactly.
Dot join. And then I think that has to take parentheses with like that, right?
Yeah. So is it giving you the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Okay. So now go to your function reverser and fix it. Okay. Fix line 49. So it will work for any name.
Okay, got you.
So in this case,
copy and paste.
Thing. Let's make sure that we understand it though.
Okay.
Thing in this case corresponds to
David.
You understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So thing and dot what?
Thing
we're gonna take the string or the name, and then what are we gonna do to it? Let's go in order.
Split.
We're gonna split it. Why are we gonna split it?
Because we need to turn it into an array.
Beautiful. So write split. Okay, and we're gonna split it by no spaces. Cool.
So that's fine, right?
That's fine.
Okay.
And then now we got that array. Now what are we gonna do?
We're going to dot reverse it.
Yes. Flip that thing and reverse it.
Then we're gonna dot.
Okay, now call that function reverser and give it Kazi, and let's see if it returns like Isaac. Boom. That's sick, right?
That's sick.
Let's go. And so now whatever you give it, it will work. Okay, that's the explanation behind that like one weird obfuscated line of code.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's why data types are so important. Because if you know how arrays work and strings work, then you can mix and match. Even though you're like, man, it should just work. It should be thing dot reverse and works. No. So then you have to know how arrays work.
Right. So what data types would be booleans, strings. Data types would be booleans, strings, arrays, numbers.
Exactly.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch more like objects, for example.
Oh, yeah. Objects. Okay.
And so it's really important to get a grasp on them and see what methods you can use.
Right.
Being familiar with them. Cool. Let's go and take it to another level. But first, I want to make sure that you understand how if-else conditional statements work.
Right. Okay. Let's go.
So let's write let Kazi equals hungry. So here's the if-else that I want. If Kazi is hungry, print out hungry, okay, or food. Else print out work.
Okay.
Another important thing, okay, and interviewers will give you bonus points for this, and also it'll make you really jacked at coding.
Okay.
Right now, I'm doing you a favor by turning my words into pseudocode. You understand what pseudocode means?
Yeah.
What I want you to do is in the future, I want you to get in the habit of you writing the pseudocode. I'm going to say it to you, and it's going to be your job to, in very clear terms, get it down as pseudocode.
That helps with the problem solving, right?
Yes, because literally you just have to turn it from English to French, aka English to code.
Gotcha.
Hey, this is gonna be your sixth language you're gonna learn, man. Polyglot.
If since your name is a string, if your name is a string, Kazi equals hungry. Console.log food else console.log work. But first, I believe we have to let Kazi equals hungry, And
Hey,
then
yeah.
you need to, I think this goes also in the curly brackets, if I'm not mistaken.
Hold on. So let's just walk through this. We're going to remove all of this because that you're just writing for no reason.
Oh, okay.
This is looking pretty good to me. So if Kazi is hungry, but here's the only thing about this, okay? You're not giving it a variable Kazi. You're giving it a string Kazi. And you're saying that if string Kazi is the same as string hungry, will that ever be true?
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Will 5 ever equal 8?
No.
No.
Okay.
So you are giving it a string.
Okay.
You're not. Do you understand the difference between a string and a variable?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
Yeah, strings are like this. They're like names and things like that.
Yeah. So
and
this is like
variables.
hard-coded Kazi. This is not the variable Kazi on line 58.
Okay.
This line will never equal.
I see. I got you.
Cool.
So I believe.
So let's because Kazi has been declared, it's airing out because we made a function called Kazi. So we'll just call it like if Kazi 2. Okay, let's just do that. So go ahead.
So I would say if I would take this out, and then I would put
No, you.
Kazi 2 equals hungry console.log. Okay, because I didn't see I had declared that up there. I got
Exactly.
you. Okay.
Nice work. Damn, sick. So conditionals you did a good job with. Now, what if on line 61, Kazi 2 was not hungry? Instead, Kazi 2 was, focused.
Then it will return work.
Perfect. And it would console log, it would log work, not return. Just because functions, returns are only in functions.
Got you.
And here we have written no function. What you were trying to do earlier where you started putting random curly braces here and here. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
we were trying to wrap this in curly braces.
Right.
Because this is where you're combining concepts with this. Because you probably seen this written in a function.
Right.
And if you were to wrap this up in a function, then you would have to.
Okay, I got you.
Now, actually, let's do that. So let's take it from this to instead, it takes in a thing. And if that thing is hungry, then it says food. Or let's say it takes in a person. And if that person is hungry, then it says food. Otherwise, it says work. I want you to turn this into a function. And basically, I should be able to go person, hungry, or I should be able to call it like person, focused, whatever.
Okay.
Or maybe status. Okay. Maybe status is a better name for it. So I want to be able to call your function like this.
Got you.
So I want you to turn this into a function.
Okay. So I would say function status, and then there it would say, can we call it A? I'm assuming that goes like that. And then we can put that down there. And I think return.
You don't need to do return for this.
No? Okay, so
yeah.
then.
You could have changed line 68 and line 70 to be returns, but console log in this case is fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Console.log.
No. You don't have to.
Okay.
Are you calling this now? Is that what you're trying to do? When it comes to this function, I think you're done. You don't need to write anything more inside of this function.
Okay, I was going to put like return, blah, 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 console.log, blah, 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 and see like how we did it earlier.
Okay, so you want to call your function. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I was going to do, yeah.
Yeah, but you can't call your functions from inside of the function.
It has to be outside, okay.
Yeah, so like you want to get outside of it so you can call it. Otherwise, you'll run into a recursive loop, and recursion is a whole different thing. Have you ever learned about recursion?
I've heard about it, and I heard that it's difficult to stop those.
It's like mind-blowing, dude. Recursion is the most fascinating and the coolest thing ever. Yeah, so if you made this recursive, you would essentially make it an infinite loop. So for example, if you in here set status something, what will happen is your function will run. It'll run this line, this line, this line, and then it'll go down here, and then it'll call the function status. So it'll go up here. Then it'll run all of this. Then it'll call status again.
Okay.
And it'll just run forever.
I see. Yeah. And I heard that's bad for your browser.
Bad for everything. Yeah, it'll crash. Yeah. Okay. Now you can call your function. Yeah.
So I would say console.log status, and I believe right here would be
okay. So we gave it hungry, and let's see what it returned. Oh, not status. So here it would be A. Yes, food. Okay, perfect. Nice work. And now instead of hungry, what if I gave it focused?
If you gave it focused, it would return work.
Okay, so let's try it. Exactly. You can see the work right here. And you could change these console logs to return statements as well. Okay, and what that would look like is you could do return.
Hey, I'm hungry or something like
Yeah, you could say return food.
Oh.
Or for this, you could say return what?
Sleepy.
No, I'm like just turning this.
I see.
Right. So these are the equivalent. These are equivalent. Okay. But return is slightly different than console logging. And in functions, generally you want things to return. Console logging, you generally want to do here. Great. I mean, we're making a lot of progress, right? We went from functions, calling functions, passing in arguments,
arrays,
returning them, how to call them, arrays. Also, we added conditional statements. And then we even did how to turn it into a function. Okay, so you're doing a really good job. One thing now I want to do is let's take this up a notch. Okay, let's kick this up a notch. So I'm going to tell you, it's going to be your job to write this down in pseudocode first.
Okay.
And then you're going to try to turn it into a function. Okay.
Got you.
So I'm going to give you a string and you are going to find out if that string is a palindrome or not. And based on that, you're going to return either true or false.
If the string is a palindrome or not.
Yes.
Okay.
A palindrome means, for example, a word like race car. Race car written forwards is the same as written backwards. So if I gave you race car, you will return
race car.
Wrong. You will only return true or false.
Okay, got you.
If I gave you race car, you will return. You can only return one of those.
Oh, it would be true.
Yes, you'll return true. If I gave you baseball, you will return false. Got it?
Got it.
That's what your function needs to be able to do.
Okay.
So first, I want you to write the pseudocode for what I just said and make sure that you understand the question clearly before you start writing any code.
So if I understand correctly, if string is a, how do you spell palindrome?
L-I. Palindrome. Yeah. So it's palin with an N and then drome, D-R-O-M-E, I believe.
Oh, palindrome.
Yeah.
If string is a palindrome, return true.
Exactly.
And if not, return false.
What's another way of saying if not?
Else.
Yes.
Else, return false.
Cool.
So you said also you said create a function, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess I can just keep that in my mind. So I would say function palindrome, and then palindrome function a, I guess, and then I would say.
So let's make your variables better.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you words. Okay. So your argument should be what instead of a?
Can I say true or true comma false?
Let me say this again. The input, right? I'm going to give you words. So you should call your input word. Okay. Because I'm going to give you one word.
Okay, one word.
So make it as clear as possible in English. So when somebody's reading your code, they can understand it too. So word is perfect. It's great. Okay. It's literally great. Okay, because then it's easy.
Be descriptive when you name your stuff.
So it's easier to read your code now. Okay. It's like, it's a function's called palindrome and it takes in a word. Let me give your palindrome a word and see what happens.
So I guess how would I be able to write a function that knows that my word is a palindrome?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's gonna have to be on Google.
No. So this is why we did a lot of the other things we did. So you could have all the building blocks and all the information. All the information you need is already on here. Okay.
So then,
but before you start going through it, let's think it through.
Okay.
This is where a lot of software development, like you become a software developer. I want you to think this through. Okay. So let's start breaking down what palindrome means, right?
Right.
If I have the word Kazi, what would it be if it was reversed?
it would spell out the same thing, but just in reverse.
So quasi reverse is what?
Is Isaac.
Isaac. Are they the same word?
No.
No. So it's not a
Not
palindrome.
a palindrome.
Okay.
Right.
So what's the fucking, so let's go through it, right? What's the algorithm that we're saying out loud? Okay, let's write it down.
Okay.
So let's write it down step by step. If word is quasi, then what should I do to check it? What are we doing?
We need to check if it's a palindrome.
Yeah,
Right.
but let's break it down even more. So exactly, you're right.
So if word is quasi, I guess I would say if word is quasi.
Yeah. So let's take the word David, right?
Okay.
Is David a palindrome?
No,
How do you know?
because it's not spelled the same way backwards.
So there's a step in there that you're not writing down here, which is you're making it backwards.
Okay, so then we would do the reverse thing that we did earlier
Exactly.
today. Okay.
Okay.
If quasi equals quasi in reverse,
Yes.
return true.
Write that down. That's really important. Write that pseudocode down. That's really important. Great.
So if word is quasi,
Uh-huh.
then
Write down exactly how you said it. Okay. So
Okay.
forget about what I wrote. You did a great job of saying it. So write down exactly what you said.
so I said if quasi
Mm-hmm.
is equal
Uh-huh.
to quasi, return true.
So quasi is always going to be equal to quasi.
Right.
So like for example, if I take David,
Okay, hold on. If quasi, I guess in this case would be equal to Isaac, right?
right?
Izaq,
Uh-huh.
then return true.
Exactly.
And then we don't use if, we use else, return false.
Got it. So
Right.
exactly. But what's another way of saying Isaac here? So we can make it into a recipe. Because right now it's not a recipe. It's like quasi is Isaac. But what did we say? If David, you said this earlier. You said, so when I check David, what am I checking it against?
You're checking it against my name in reverse.
Right. So you should write that down here instead of Isaac. Another way of saying Isaac is like it's quasi in reverse. Right? So maybe write that down there.
If quasi
Is equal to reverse of quasi, right? Or quasi reverse or whatever you want to say.
reverse, return true.
Okay.
Else return false.
Got it. That's your algorithm. Okay. So when we say data structures and algorithms and all of that, this is a recipe.
Okay.
This is your recipe that you're going to give to your function.
Okay.
And if you can train your function to do this, it will do this correctly every single time.
Every single time.
Okay.
So
now essentially turn that into code.
okay. So then let's start from the top.
Yeah.
We want to write a function.
Which is right there. It's already written.
Okay.
But you can practice it again if you want. That's
No,
fine.
it's okay. So it's already here. So then in that function, I want to. All right, man. We're just gonna go developer mode. Where's some copy and paste action at? So it would basically be something like this, right?
So here's the thing. So I'm going to teach you something new right now.
Mm-hmm.
The power of calling your functions. So now we're going to build on another thing, which is you don't need to copy and paste that code. You can actually call the function you created earlier.
With what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So to give you an example, right?
So then would I have to change that? Would I have to change that to be thing so that it matches the.
So for example, if quasi is equal to.
Wow.
That's cool, right?
Okay. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So you're calling your other function, and now you don't even care how it works anymore. You just let it do its thing. Split it, reverse, join, whatever. Right? Split it, then reverse it. Like you don't care about that. You just call the function. See what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Okay. And Yeah. And you can keep generalizing this more and more because you still have it hard coded, right? It says if quasi. But another way of writing is if word is equal to
reverse quasi.
Reverser. What? Don't hard code quasi. Forget about quasi. We're changing quasi with word, right? So if the word that I give you is equal to reverser. What? Not quasi.
What is it?
But a more general version of it.
Reverser.
It's right there.
Word.
Okay. So if the word is the same as the reverse of the word,
return true.
Return true.
Else return false.
Does this make sense?
It makes sense. I understand the concept. I'm just thinking about how I would put it into code.
Cool. So we're going to work on that in a second.
Okay.
We're going to work on that in a second. But when you do algorithms, what I want you to start doing in your pseudocode is start off by writing hard code, meaning like, do you understand what I mean when I say hard code?
Yeah.
Right? We're hard coding quasi everywhere. But you're not going to get quasi. You're going to get something more general.
Understood.
So we make a more general version of it, which is word in this case. And we know it corresponds with our word right there.
Right.
So we're very close to turning this into actual code now. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. How would we write in code this line 91 here?
How would we write in code the line 91? So I would say...
Just go literally step by step for everything that you see there.
Okay. So I would go if... And then I would put parentheses.
So let's start with that.
Okay. If, parentheses. And then I would say, I'm not sure if I can put your name here, but...
You're not going to put any names here. Remember, this is a function. You're not hard coding shit in here, okay?
Okay, so I would put
this is
reverser.
Wrong.
Okay.
Look, read line 91. Reverser comes later.
Oh, so if word, my bad. Word is equal to reverser word. Is that correct?
Okay. And now what are you going to do if it is?
Return true.
So let's do that.
Return.
Just remember for the if statements to put squigglies in the correct places, right?
Return true.
Okay.
And
otherwise, what are we going to do?
On this line right here, we'll put else.
Yeah.
And then we'll put other squiggly lines. And then we'll put return false.
Okay. So now, in writing, when you look at it, does it look correct? Does it match the algorithm we wrote?
Yeah, it does. It looks like what we just said.
Yeah. Okay. And look at this. Normally here, you would need to write this long line of code to reverse this, right? But you're using your own function you created within this function.
My mind is blown.
That's fucking cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want you to call this and let's see if it works. Okay. So let's call palindrome on, I want you to call palindrome on two different strings. One is White House and two is race car.
Okay.
What do you expect it to say if you wrote White House? What do you expect your function to return?
False.
Got it. So let's try it. Let's see what it says.
So then I'll say console.log, and then I would put in there palindrome, and then I guess I can put word right there. No.
Now you're going to give it the actual word, yeah.
White House.
And walk me through the algorithm before you continue. Walk me through the algorithm. So when I go line 92,
okay,
what happens? Where do I go? Once I hit line 92, where does my code go next? To line what?
To line 88.
No, line 84.
Line 84. So okay. So once you console log this, it goes to the top
because you just called your function,
right? And it checks to see if the word is equal to.
Give me hold 1 second. Does it console log? Like, is the first thing that happens? So within line 92,
okay,
what's the first part that runs?
I think that it runs from this way to that way. Right?
Yeah. So it's not console log.
Right. It's checking to see if
it's not checking anything. It's calling this function.
Calling the function first.
That's all that's happening.
Okay.
Here. Cool. Okay. And then whatever that function simplifies to, true or false,
Right.
will sit inside of this console log. That makes
Got
sense?
it.
You with me
Makes
so
sense.
far?
With you.
So when I call this function, where do I go?
You go to line 84.
Beautiful. Then walk me through what happens. Then line 85, walk me through what happens.
Then it checks to see if the word is equal to,
And it's not a word anymore. What is it?
if the string is equal
What
to
string?
White House
So if White House,
is equal to reverser, then
reverse of what? Of
at
White
the
House.
reverse of White House, then
Yeah.
it's going to return true.
Yes.
Else it's going to return false. And in this case, it's going to return false because it's not a palindrome.
So, right. So this here would turn to what? This line right here would resolve to what? True or false?
It will resolve to false.
This will resolve to false. So once this resolves to false, this will run. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Cool. Cool. Okay. Now, I want you to do race car. And what do you predict it will return?
It will return true.
Okay, let's try it.
Console.log.
And then once you're done with that, explain each line, okay?
Okay. It returns true.
Hey, let's go.
Cool, let's go. That's cool. That was something new.
That's sick.
Okay, so in this case, first,
That's crazy that it worked, right?
crazy that worked. It basically did. Well, I guess let me try to explain it so that I can make sure that I understand also. So what happened is I called this function palindrome.
Uh-huh.
It went to the top to line 84.
Yeah.
It checked to see if the word was equal to the word in reverse.
And now when I'm asking you, don't speak in general anymore.
Okay.
So you cannot say word anymore. I want you, because I'm having to go through line by line. At that point, it's not word anymore. It's something specific.
So what would we call it?
It's race car.
Okay.
So I
then
want
it
you to
checks-
say exactly what it is.
So then it checks if, in this case, word, which is equal to race car,
If
is
race
equal
car-
to race car in reverse.
Yes.
If so, it returns true.
And just real quick, right? To be even more technical, when it calls the function reverse. So it doesn't just go to line 86. Where does it go when it calls this function reverser?
It goes to the first function that's at the top.
Exactly.
Okay.
See what's happening here?
I forgot about that function until I was like, let's copy and paste.
Right.
Okay.
So it goes to this function, and then it goes. Thing becomes what?
Thing becomes race car.
Race
And then
car. It
turns
reverses race car.
Right. Turns it into the. I'm assuming that it turns it into the array. Then it reverses it. Then it joins it.
Exactly.
And then, okay.
So it returns the reverse of the word race car.
Right.
Right. And then we come back to this line here. And so is race car equal to race car?
True.
True. So then this part here becomes
True.
true. So when that happens, does it return the else part or does it return?
It doesn't have to go to the else.
No, it doesn't. Right. And then it does what?
It will show true in the console.
Yeah.
Amazing. I feel like I actually learned more than watching 1,000 YouTube videos. I'm being honest, because I see it up here. It's here. I know what I'm doing up here.
Yeah.
But due to the fact of even turning my words into an algorithm, to do that was quite difficult. You know,
Yes.
It's like you get stuck in tutorial hell and you can understand what these people are doing, but when you go to do it yourself, it's kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything, all the stuff that you know you've seen, you know you've practiced,
Yeah.
it kind of goes away
Yes.
when you're doing it yourself, because it's almost like now you're in the deep end.
Exactly.
Now you have to do it. So yeah, my brain was exercised today.
Beautiful. Beautiful, man. That makes me really, really happy to hear.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to get value from this and learn. Amazing. Any parting words you want to share, or maybe like the biggest thing that the biggest value or takeaway for you from this?
Other than just making sure that you have the basics down, maybe get off YouTube and sit down and do it. That's I mean, Kazi's channel is great, but actually putting this into practice yourself is great. This is amazing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you, man. I like I said, I learned so much more sitting down with you doing it than watching 1,000 YouTube videos. So, and you explained everything well and clear, and even though I'm nervous here and I'm doing it with you, I'm still trying to stay with you and make sure that I understand the concept.
Yeah.
And I understand how to do it. So yeah, man, this doesn't have value on it. This was amazing.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you for coming in. And what's crazy is that you were also at the JavaScript tour that we did in person, which was really cool. We were glad to have you there. So there you guys go. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you. If you enjoyed it or you got value out of it, please share an insight or a comment, whatever. Also, it would really help get this video out everywhere if you smash the
like button.
Yes. It would really help out. So yeah, go ahead, do that. That'd be amazing. Subscribe to the channel. You'll learn coding and become a developer. And with that said, we love your beautiful face. This is Kazi and
David.
And we'll see you in the next video.